Hello and welcome to episode 63 of the Gamebook Podcast, your weekly dose of lightning in a bottle. I am your host, Grant, and joining me here today for a special episode is the one and only Jason. How are you?
Hey,
What's up?
not too much.
Yeah, what'd you think of that punch that I just showed you?
That was nuts. I don't think I've ever seen I don't know. I've seen stuff thrown in baseball, but now some punches like that, that's
Yeah,
pretty nuts.
it was pretty crazy. Referencing the Rangers Blue Jays fight that broke out yesterday. It's pretty incredible. Kyle, you are also here. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm all right. Just peachy as
Yeah, I was gonna
always.
say you're peachy. You better not be anything other than peachy. All right. Well, Brett is gone for a second straight week, but
Dun, dun, dun.
it doesn't matter because
He's out slaying bears.
yeah, he thought slaying bears is more important
Didn't get
than
his fill.
playing
It
Uncharted
isn't?
4. He hasn't even bought Uncharted 4 yet.
What? Sacrilege.
Yeah.
He wants to wait.
He's like, I told myself I would wait, and I was like, well, you made a bad decision. Anyways, I said this was going to be a special episode. It is because we're only going to talk about Uncharted 4. We're going to do just our initial impressions, spoiler free, and then after we go through that, then we can go into like spoilers and stuff. So once we get to that point, we will say so. So you know not to listen if you haven't beat the game yet. But let's jump right into it after I say the official podcast of thegamebook.com and post to iTunes every Tuesday and YouTube every Wednesday. So yeah, let's jump right into it. First up, Kyle, give me your overall impressions of the game, and then we can dive into the individual aspects a little bit deeper after.
All right. It's probably one of the best video games I have ever played, and certainly my favorite game of this generation.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well,
that pretty much sums it up in a nutshell.
Took
yeah,
his breath away.
I think I agree with Kyle. Jason,
I don't know if it's my favorite game of this generation.
it's
I think The Witness probably took that for me, but it's
Oh, really?
it's
The
way
Witness?
yeah. Witness is just like that blew my socks
I gotta
off.
play The Witness.
Yeah. But this is way up there though. I mean, definitely my favorite Uncharted. Still having debates whether I like it more than The Last of Us or not. I think I do.
Yeah.
But
It's close.
Yeah, really, definitely.
Because like I was thinking about, I think I might prefer The Last of Us just a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm like so torn between the two. I'm just like, I like
because-
Uncharted 4 and I like Last of Us. They're both excellent, but I'm just not sure what I like more.
Yeah, it's kind of tough because like Last of Us, the reason I gave Last of Us like the complete edge over Uncharted is like characters are so good, and then after this, I was like Drake might be like my favorite character of all time just because like of how deep they go into like the characters this time, and it's not just like I mean the Uncharted games were never just like shallow, but it goes way deeper than it had before.
right.
So let's jump into first bullet point. This game is gorgeous. It looks incredible.
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yes. So like there's a lot of climbing at the beginning,
Yeah.
and I
Wait,
thought I would
climbing in
get-
Uncharted.
yeah. Well, I mean,
No, this isn't Naughty Dog.
so I thought it would get kind of boring, but since like once you reach places, like the environments are so good looking that like it's just kind of worth the journey up there.
Yeah. Well, I think that the graphics are stunning throughout, and just even
Yeah.
up close, like it's crazy because they don't even have I mean, they have cutscenes, but technically they don't. I mean, it pretty much
Like it all looks the same really.
it's in game
Yeah,
technically,
kind of.
but
There's there's a few
You can tell it's an engine.
yeah for
Right.
sure.
yeah, they use like little tricks to kind of jump to it that make it look not as noticeable. Where the
Seamless.
graphics do get like Kyle
Like
just
they
said,
walk
it's
into
so
a different room or
seamless.
something like that.
But the thing I love about that is when it's like close up on the character's face is like, man, you really pick up on like the character's emotions from their little winks and
Yeah.
Yeah.
like lip biting and stuff like that. Like you can tell like how they're feeling, and that's like something you couldn't feel with the last Uncharted, or even really the Last of Us. Like they had a little bit of that, but you couldn't really get like the full emotion of like a character up until now. I don't think.
Yeah, the motion capture is like definitely
Incredible.
impressive.
But yeah, overall like lighting is incredible. Like I saw some like The photo mode, a lot of people, like I've seen some of the pictures people taking, is crazy because it looks like nearly photorealistic.
Yeah,
But yeah, graphics looks gorgeous. Next,
and
into,
even though like it looks like ultra realistic, it still has that
yeah,
Uncharted comic
Hmm.
vibe to it all,
yeah. There's
which is like
like a weird like Sony games. I feel like that are like Sony exclusives. I noticed like Infamous, like Last of Us, Uncharted. Like they have like a specific look to them that are different
yeah,
than like a lot of other games, which is
they're
kind of
always
strange.
like really comic-y,
Yeah, just because they're like so optimized to PS4 and they can get a specific look.
except for the Order 1886.
Yeah, well, I mean that one. See, that's the one game that I was like, okay, what looks better than this? Nothing. And I was like, oh wait, the Order. But the Order, I kind of put in a. It's like it's weird because I kind of put it in a different category because the Order is really like a movie.
Yeah.
Like it's more movie than game, to be honest. Just because like how it has the black bars on the top, sort of like a filmy green. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah,
it looks really good.
same length as the movie.
I don't really agree with that. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't want to
Kyle,
get too
stop
deep into it because we're
trashing
not.
the Order.
Director's cut of a movie.
Yeah. I still think it was longer than a movie though. There's so many people that are like, I beat this game in 2 hours. I was like, no way,
There's
no
no, you
way.
can't beat that in 2 hours.
I haven't
Yeah,
played it, but just length based.
It's a lot better than
I
people give
have
it credit for.
Yeah,
yeah.
I have no issues with it only being 4 hours, six
It's
hours
not
long.
4 hours or 6 hours. How long was it? I don't remember. Like I
Oh
think
boy, it
mine was,
probably took me. I mean, it wasn't as long
yeah, mine was
as.
probably like 8 hours maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I don't think it was as long as
Like it's not long.
Uncharted 4, but yeah, it was a good like at least 8 hours or
Yeah,
so.
and
And
what's Uncharted for? Like 13? Something like
yeah,
It took me
I mean,
20.
it felt longer than Uncharted 3, and nobody complained about Uncharted 3 being like 5 hours back in the
yeah,
day.
like it feels longer than it is, I think,
Yeah.
which is good.
Yeah, and I spent playing it on hard mode, so
Oh my gosh.
it added
No.
like
I was like, man, I
Jesus.
love this game. I'm gonna go for the platinum. I was like, oh, you have to beat it on crushing. Yeah, no way.
Oh yeah. Are
Now
you
I'm
talking
playing on
about
crushing.
are you talking about the Order?
Oh no, Uncharted.
Uncharted, yeah. Yeah, see I've platinumed the first three games twice now because
Dang.
I
Oh
was like
yeah, that's
Wow.
right.
I want to replatinum these when they come out, and I did. And then this one, I'm trying to platinum Uncharted 4 right now. I'm playing through on Crushing. I'm about maybe three-quarters of the way through on Crushing.
Oh.
But this one's the easiest one to platinum, even though it's just time consuming because you can actually use cheats in this
Yeah.
one.
Like what?
I'm not sure if you could in the
Oh
old
yeah,
ones.
like those. I haven't dove into those yet.
Yeah, I mean they have like infinite ammo. You can unlock any weapon. Like they have the what is it, the Barak? Is it the 46 or something like that? One shot kills. So you just
Yeah,
do
the
infinite
hand
ammo in that, and then
Oh.
slow bullet time, and you just it's
Well, then
it's
maybe
so
I'll platinum it.
yeah.
Because, like, yeah, I'm cheating it, but, like, I'm not going to platinum it any other way.
No.
The
Multiplayer trophies are really simple.
Yeah.
the only one I'm worried about is there's a trophy you have to beat the game in under 6 hours.
Oh, you
Uh,
can cheese that.
you can?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
How do you cheese it?
You play through the very first chapter, the prologue, and then you save it to a new save file. Then you jump to the epilogue, and then finish it. Play through the epilogue, save it to the same save file, and then finish
Oh.
it.
Does that count as a trophy?
Yep.
Because
Jeez.
I read that somewhere, and then a whole bunch of comments under that said it didn't work.
Hmm.
So I don't know if maybe the
It's
first patch got rid of that or.
I've heard like some people are able to do it and some people aren't. It's a very
Oh,
like weird thing.
Yeah, that's strange.
I can't imagine speed running it in 6 hours.
That would be insane.
yeah, there's people like with videos I saw on YouTube already, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I beat it in 4 hours and 10 minutes or something." So,
Wow.
well, geez, I
Like,
don't know. Maybe that's
do you
Crazy.
even play video games?
yeah.
Uh, let's go ahead and dive into the story and, like, characters and stuff. One thing from Jason's review that, like, when I watched the video review, and then, like, I was like, wow, this paragraph is, like, exactly the way I feel about it. Quote from Jason's review. This is just quoting Jason right here. There is more of a quieter, melancholy tone this time, and you can feel it right from the first time you open the title screen, where you no longer find the cheery theme music. It's a series that has grown up, borrowing elements from The Last of Us, painting a more mature picture without drifting too far off the beaten trail from where it all started. I thought that was perfect.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I
Yeah,
thought that was spot on, like, how to explain it. I was like, how can I... It sort of has, like, a quieter tone than
right.
before.
Yeah, more
Yeah,
somber.
Yeah.
that's the first thing I noticed when I booted it up because I like the week coming up to this game, like I
Yeah, I was
had
like
the
waiting for
theme.
the theme music. I was like, here we
Yeah,
go.
I had it in my head. Like I was singing it for like a week. Like I
Yeah,
was
no,
like,
right after I beat the game, I brought up the theme music from the last game because like parts of it were in the credits, but it wasn't like the
yeah,
full thing.
yeah. They still have the theme there. It's just like very
It's more subtle.
it's more subtle. But yeah, like I was like humming that in the shower like a week before this came out. Like I was humming it everywhere. Like I was just like I was so excited for this game, and then that big, went to the menu, and I was like, "There's no theme
It's like,
music
This
oh,
is
here
a
this is
anymore."
like the Last of
pirate's
Us title
game.
screen.
Yeah, it's just like The Last of Us, and I was just like, "Wow!" And
Just
then like,
like a picture of like some object just like moving in the wind with no music. That's what Last of Us is too.
right, yeah, and then I mean, just getting into the story, just like right from the start, like you can just feel it. Like it's a very like subtle, like melancholy tone this time, and I at first I honestly didn't like that because I was like, this just isn't Uncharted. Like Uncharted is always so like cheery and happy with all these
Yeah,
like witty jokes
like
and
you'll get to it. Like there's so many jokes in this game still. It's great.
and it references itself so many times in so many amazing ways and makes fun of itself and
Yeah,
yeah, and it doesn't get into that till later. But right from the start, I was like, oh man, something bad's gonna happen. Like they're setting this up for a reason, and it just like
yeah.
it hit me
Yeah.
wrong until like halfway through, and then I really appreciated it when like they started getting into a few other things we'll probably get into like later in this podcast. But
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Like it's kind of like less crazy like Indiana Jones adventure, but it's still like exploration like Uncharted. Um and then that's sort of okay because like some of my favorite parts of this game are like parts where like people are interacting with each other like characters because I think that adds like the most charm and like authenticness to
Yeah.
authenticity to like the whole game.
Yeah, definitely. And there was no supernatural stuff in it this time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, um, all right,
I mean, that's not
is
really
there
a
like
spoiler.
something gonna pop up that's gonna be like, oh no, and it's gonna kill us?
I thought that was gonna
And
happen.
Yeah, oh
yeah,
yeah. There's a moment later on.
Like it's
Maybe I
it's
should
it's
wait
just a
to.
more real game.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
There's those.
definitely.
I'll just say exploding things later, and I thought like that was gonna come. Those were gonna come to life.
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
thought that too. It's
no.
like,
It's like
oh
don't go that way.
no, oh
No
no.
fire demons.
Yeah. What does she joke? Like she says like pirate ghosts or something like that.
Please don't make this into a gimmicky boss fight.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing is like speaking of the boss fight and just the villains in this game, like I felt like they really fit.
Yeah, I
Like,
was gonna go into them. Like I made a list of characters, just make sure we cover them all. Like the villains, like Rafe.
Mhm.
Oh man, I shouldn't probably say that, should
What's that?
No, it's pretty
I don't
much
think.
obvious from the get-go that
Yeah, I
Rafe
guess
is the
that's true.
villain.
Yeah, I
Like
mean he's in
Rafe,
all the
just like
trailers and
yeah, it's true. So like just
His
his whole
hair.
like yeah, his hair, he just looks like an evil villain. And
yeah,
just sort of the like how he's just like calm all the time and just sort of his mannerisms are like really fits.
yeah. I like that. Whoever I don't know if the actors that plays him, but he does a really good job. Like probably my favorite performance in that game is that character.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I mean even Nadine, even though she doesn't play that big of a role, like I just feel like those characters fit this time. Like if you look back at like some of the older like enemies in Uncharted or the characters, like they don't really seem like they fit. Like in two, they had Lazarevich, and he just
Yeah.
didn't like he seemed like so like I mean the game's cartoony already, but he just seemed like
Like
straight out of a cartoon or some
yeah.
like a meathead guy. And then three, like that old lady, whatever her name was, I don't remember anymore. Like
Like Rafe
Marla.
She
makes a lot
wasn't
of
even
sense in the world that
she
it's
wasn't even the real antagonist.
Yeah, and
It was
so yeah,
Taubin, and Taubin was like
he had
the boss fight in
superpowers.
Uncharted 3 was like so like odd.
Yeah, yeah. I was talking with Jake a little bit because he was the first one that beat it along with me, and we were kind of joking
he
and
beat it before everyone. He got the
yeah,
game like a
He
month
had it
early.
a week before us, so
and the thing is like I what's her name that wrote the first three games?
Amy Hennig.
Amy Hennig.
She
Amy
got a
Hennig.
nice like thing in the credits.
Yeah, she did, and see, I think she did like a really good job with the first three games, but it was getting to a point where like it was getting really kind of goofy, and I really wanted it to grow up, and
It did.
I don't know if it would have went that way if she wrote it, and so I was really glad,
Mhm.
you know, that this project got taken over by Neil and what's his name,
Bruce.
Bruce, yeah, because man, I just think this would have been a totally different game
Neil
otherwise.
writes a good story, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then so going into sort of the relationship with Nate and Sam, they're kind of like I love how they interact. Like it's like brothers. Like I have a brother that's it's like it's like I just mess around with him, joke with him all the
Yeah.
time. Like sometimes I'll make fun of him. Just like sort of it's really realistic and I loved how they did that. Troy Baker, fantastic. Man, what like
That, it doesn't even sound like Troy Baker.
yeah, it absolutely sounds like Troy Baker. You kidding me? It's like no, because he has sort of like an accent, just a little bit,
Yeah.
but then like some of the times, like it's just kind of hard to tell that he has that. So like I replayed Infamous Second Son recently, and I was like, oh wait, Delson, because like it sounds like sort of the same person, which it is.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, he puts like a little bit of like a Brooklyn accent on it or something, and
yeah, especially like do they voice the kids at the beginning? Because
No, they don't.
no way. Yeah, I don't think so.
yeah, 'cause I was saying because he
That'd
had
be amazing.
yeah, 'cause he definitely had more of an accent.
Yeah, it'd be like, man, these guys are like the best actors of all time if they pulled that off.
Yeah. But yeah, and then if you guys want to talk about like sort of Elena and Sully, the other two characters.
Sully didn't have too big of a role
Yeah, I was saying
in the game.
Sully's kind of
Like,
like the most minor character in this game.
yeah, and that's kind of sad but understandable. I mean, the guy's almost 70 years old, so it's understandable that he'd
Yeah.
just be hiding out on a plane
Yeah, the
and
whole
waiting for
time.
like Nate and Sam or Elena to do what they need to do. And so, but it feels like he should have had a bit more of a bigger role, because it felt like something might happen to him, like they were kind of hinting at an Uncharted 3, but that turned out to be not real,
Mhm.
because but I guess like Nate and Elena, their relationship was like really like intricate. Like they
Mhm.
handled that
Yeah,
really well in the
yeah, for sure.
story. And it's just like I know there's one point where they have a conversation about the relationship, and then right after they hop in their Jeep, and as you're driving to the next place that you need to go to, there's just this song that plays in the background. It's just like so like serene, somber, and swell. It just fits the vibe perfectly and kind of fits their relationship.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh,
And that,
yeah.
oh god,
And then about Sully, like because I was sort of thinking about like his role in this thing. Like I thought, like when I first thought about it, I was like, okay, well, did he really need to be in it? Because I kind of just feel like he's talking to Drake over the radio, just like, hey, I'm here. But
Well,
like,
that'd be disappointing though.
yeah, just to sort of remind it. But then, like, what's the thing about it? Like, there's a lot of big parts that he plays in it.
mhm.
Like
Yeah,
sort of
sure.
like the whole beginning thing, how they all start the adventure, and then later on, not getting the spoilers, but he definitely has a bigger role in it than I thought. Like right after I beat it.
Right. I like that he's kind of like the father figure,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah, yeah.
doesn't like bode well with Sam because Sam thinks of himself as like the father figure because he was the older brother and like
Mm.
he grew up basically without parents at a young age, so he was sort of like the father figure to Drake, and then for like the 15 years he's in prison, like Sully became the new father figure, and he just like you can tell like he hates that, and just by like looking at the expressions on their face, when they're talking, like he just doesn't like that guy. Um, but I like too that like the Sully's in least like the Madagascar chapters,
Yeah.
and I feel like the one where is that like right after the Jeep area was like really nice. Like I like the way like they talked to each other as they were going through the
Yeah.
market,
Hmm.
and kind of solving that puzzle together. Even though he couldn't really climb up there, like I just feel like that all fit in there really well. And then also like I'll get into this later too when we get towards the ending. But he drops a comment there. I don't know if you guys picked that up. There's an optional conversation you can have there in the market that refers to the ending in
Hmm.
a really cool way. And I
I might
thought
have
that was
missed
just
that
like really
'cause
sweet.
yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the gameplay. Speaking of, you said the Jeep. What do you guys think of the old driving thing? I thought that they did it pretty well for it being a linear game. I like how big the environments were, even though like they were big, you can go into different areas, but like you wouldn't get lost off of your objective. So I thought they did that really well too.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was fun just driving around
Yeah, it's a nice change of pace.
and like hearing like the characters talking to each other while they're driving around.
Hmm.
and then just basically it's essentially just a transport to like in the larger areas to like get like different treasures and whatnot easier.
Yeah, yeah, it was nice. Like, it kind of adds to like now when you're like climbing too. Like, there's always like multiple ways to go about everything, um,
Yeah,
and it plays in the vehicles too. Like, there's always like kind of like multiple paths.
Yeah.
And with like that boat mission, like I think that's my favorite mission in the entire game, just because I just like how it's just such a massive space, and it's the only
Yes.
one where you're not really on like even with the Jeep level, even though it's like this big open area, you're still kind of on
yeah,
a path.
Yeah,
Where
like you're
that one,
still
like
confined.
you could go around this big island in so many different ways and like figure out the level in so many different ways.
it's like
And
at first I'm like I'm gonna get like so stuck.
But yeah, I mean that's like a mission I'd want to get stuck in because it was just like it was so awesome that you could like go everywhere and there were like so many little hidden secrets everywhere. Like there was that sunken ship off to the side, that
Yeah,
had treasure in it and that like
Mm.
added to the story. There was like papers there with pirates on it.
Yeah.
And there was another thing I want to mention too was it took like a page out of The Last of Us with those pages where you could pick them up and read about pirates, that were
People who were there before.
yeah, people that were there before, and there was like a clear message in all of those, and I just thought that like fit right into where this game was going, and I just
Sure.
thought that was really, really cool.
yeah, I'm gonna brainstorm that up as we get later into the podcast then.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're
Because there's like a chapter that was like really well handled and mostly because of the letters.
hmm
So, yeah.
yeah. Uh yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. But there was so Jason, like you mentioned, sort of like the sprawling environments, like not just the driving sections, but even just combat exploration. There's like multiple paths you can take just to
And
make it.
stealth.
Yeah, stealth.
yeah,
There's a lot bigger focus on stealth this time. Well, I mean, you don't have to be stealthy, but I mean, I think it kind of works in your favor. Because
Yeah,
like if
definitely, especially on the harder difficulties.
yeah, because if you break stealth, then like there's like hundreds of guys shooting at you.
You can like die so easily in all the Uncharted games on the harder difficulties if you're not careful.
Yeah. Uh,
So
well, that's the
stealth
cool
is
thing
like
is like so there's a couple of areas in this game, not very many, where there's actually waves like in the older games. Like the older games had waves of enemies in like every room.
mhm.
yeah,
But
especially
Yeah, there are
Uncharted
some
1.
waves.
there's maybe like three areas in this whole game that has like waves, but you can stealthily take out the entire first wave, and then the rest of the waves won't even come. Or you can just
Yeah,
like
Oh,
sneak
really?
by
Oh, that's
some of
cool.
them like altogether and like just avoid combat, which is insane. I
and
thought that was
then
really cool.
even when you're in combat, you can sort of stealth your way out of it,
Oh yeah,
Right.
like
which I
if you
actually
get
did at
lost
one
from like your
point.
last location, if you like lose line of sight, then you'll be back into stealth mode. Even though they'll be like on more alert. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. And
And
then
the cool
the
thing about like stealth and stuff is that you like hear like different conversations about different stuff that you won't hear otherwise.
Yeah, kind of like in The Last of Us, it'd be like talking about like personal things and stuff. Thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
yeah, but what did you guys think about the like whole sort of dialogue tree uh and like optional dialogue stuff?
It only happened like what, 3 times?
Yeah.
It was a nice touch. It just like yeah, it didn't get used that much, and it was just sort of like, did they really need it? In the end of the day, no. It was kind of weird that they focused on that now at PSX because they made it seem like it was going to be a much bigger thing than it was.
It only happened like 3 times at the beginning. Like I don't think there was like really any times that happened towards later in the game.
Yeah, it's a very interesting choice. I guess maybe they were thinking like maybe some people only played like some like one of the games or two of the games, and like they wanted to give them that option to say like in the beginning when you get to pick like which game you want to talk about. It's like, oh well, I played this game, I'm gonna pick that one or something. But yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. It didn't seem like it was all that important. Like they really needed it. It was just kind of a nice touch, and that was really it.
Yeah, and I think it really only happened like during the like domesticated parts of the games
Hmm.
of the game. So that kind of makes sense in a way.
Yeah, and it didn't really like change anything. Like whatever, it's just like sort of like whatever you want to talk about that doesn't affect the story at all.
Yeah,
Um,
it just sort of affects like what Nate says or whatever, but
yeah.
doesn't really change like the conversation like at
Yeah, and
all.
then the sort of like optional dialogue that they borrowed from The Last of Us.
That was cool
Yeah,
though.
that was I thought that was really well done. Just how
Yeah,
like
yeah, that,
it was really impressive in The Last of Us too. Just sort of how like you could have these like really like pretty. It's not like really important information, but it really helps you dive into like the characters
yeah,
that like some people like will dive into, other people's like could completely miss it.
yeah.
So
It's like the biggest source of character development,
yeah,
really.
just sort of like
Hmm.
this dialogue that happens just while you're exploring, walking around.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
let's go ahead and move on to. Let me bring up my notes again. Fraud, lost another paper. Uh, so again, I wrote down that sort of. Well, I kind of already went over this, but like, sort of back into like the overall presentation that I missed like the music, but it wouldn't have fit in the game like how
You mean you missed like the music from the older games
yeah
in this game? Yeah. No, I did originally too, but then once like yeah, once you get more into it and you figure out kind of like the tone of this game, you're like, yeah, just like it wouldn't work. You know, like they totally
Yeah,
had to like reorchestrate the music so that it would like fit with this
yeah
game, and I feel like they did a really good
yeah
job
I
with
think
it.
they really did.
Like Kyle
yeah,
brought up earlier in the chat that we have going about a later section where music comes into play when you're driving with Elena, and it just like that was such a amazing moment. I really liked that moment, and it
yeah. Like
just
the music felt like so perfect to it.
right,
Yeah.
right. There's a few moments like that in this game that just were like, yeah, they I mean, it just like moved me in a way, you know, where I just was like, this is awesome.
Yeah, and the sound design and as like a whole was just
Yeah, it's
like
great.
so great. Yeah. And if you're like wearing like headphones, in my case I was wearing a gold headset and I was using the official Uncharted 4 equalizer. I played the whole entire game with headphones on. It's just like going throughout the whole game, it's just like the sound, the music, the voices, the sound of guns firing, sounds of footsteps, whatever. It was just all very impactful, and at certain moments, because simply because of the sound design, very emotional.
Yeah. And then one thing I'm just gonna say about the gunplay real quick. I thought it felt tighter than
Yeah,
like
Oh, for sure.
yeah, because like the gunplay was like it was adequate in the last few games. It wasn't
yeah,
great, but I feel like it's great in this one. Like they tightened it up a lot, and it
yeah. It felt
feels
more
really good.
manageable.
Yeah.
I was really confused at first because they just I think they automatically turn on the like auto lock
Yeah, so
on.
I was like, what is this? Get me off of this.
I was like, no, this can't just be like how it is now. And then I win the options, and I was like, okay, good, because like I
Yeah.
can't deal with that because it couldn't get like headshots or anything. And it's like I can't have this.
Hmm.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think that about wraps up the whole our whole thoughts on it, all of it, without going to spoilers. So right now, if you haven't beaten the game or you just don't care about spoilers, uh,
if you
Get
don't
the
care
heck
about
out.
if you don't care about
or
spoilers, you're a nub. Bye.
yeah. So if you haven't beat the game, yeah, leave. Go beef.
Get out of here, scram.
You nub.
But yeah, so let's go ahead and dive right in. Kyle, I want to go right back to that moment with Elena, and Drake driving in the car, just sort of up that path of that music. I thought that was Uncharted 4's giraffe scene from The Last of Us.
Hmm.
Like I thought that was incredible. That might have been. It's definitely one of my favorite parts of the whole game.
Yeah, like it showed who, like how they were presenting themselves in that conversation. It just kind of showed who these characters are and how they feel about each other.
Yeah, and I thought that like whole conflict that's going on the whole time, like sort of just how Drake lied to Elena initially, and then she like went away for a little bit, and then she came back, and then even when she came back, they're still like talking about it. Like Elena's kind of like, no, we need to stay focused, and then Drake keeps bringing it up because he doesn't want to have that like hanging over them while they're going on this
Yeah,
adventure. Uh,
Yeah.
I thought their tension was done really well, but ultimately, they're still married.
There's some little
yeah,
moments there besides too where like when they're in the jungle and he says something like we should come back here for vacation and just different things like that and she's just kind of like
Yeah,
you know, like you can tell like she's
yeah,
still
she's
not
just like
really
stay
like
focused.
right, and he's kind of like trying to win her back and
Yeah,
but even like there's like that supper or the, you know, that scene where you see all the pirates that have been poisoned.
yeah, I thought that
uh,
was really cool.
and it like it he's getting like really excited about this treasure. And he's telling her before it was like not about the treasure, but it's like zooming in on his face, and you can see the excitement in his face, and
Like
the
the
camera
like
kind
the
of like
closer he gets to the treasure, the more he starts thinking about that, other than
right.
just like saving
Yeah,
Sam.
And then you see
that's
her face
just
in the
yeah.
background, and you just see like the worry on her face, and it's just like that. There's just like you didn't get those elements in the last game, and I just thought that was like so
Uh-huh.
smart the way they did that. Some of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I got to point out though that that scene where they were driving up the path and they're playing that music, like yes, it was a very touching moment, but then it ended so abruptly when that bridge broke, and I was like, why did you do that? Like they kind of
Yeah, I
like
was like, come
ruined
on.
they kind of ruined that moment. Like I felt like that was really dumb, even though it was like a really cool moment. But yeah, it was still a very touching moment.
Yeah, so that whole like sort of dynamic between Elena and Drake, probably like I know I said I had a lot of favorite moments in this game, but like probably my most favorite game was just or moment was just like Drake's working, he gets home, and then like they have the whole crash, the crash Easter egg, which is probably like the greatest Easter egg ever, because like it's like a whole game. Uh, but anyways, I thought like their whole commentary during that entire scene was incredibly done.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
it's a fox with pants. Have you seen a bandicoot? Like it was great. Just sort of like it's so realistic.
Oh yeah.
Like how they would like act even if they were real people.
He
Um,
like fall down a pit or something, and he's just like, "Why wouldn't he climb back
oh
out? I
yeah,
would climb back out of the
he's like
pit."
I would climb back out.
It
Like
was so
he's like
fitting.
this game is unrealistic.
Well, you
Yeah.
can climb out and crash too.
Well, one thing I thought was funny is I got to know, like, it's been bugging me. So I brought this up in the chat today. It was someone I replayed the game yesterday. Nathan tells Jamerson when he goes home, he goes, "I'm going to go home and crash." And I
Oh,
was like, is that an intended pun, or like
I think it probably was.
did Naughty Dog just like accidentally
Foreshadowing.
put that in there? But
Yeah,
yeah, it's too perfect. Like I love that that's in there
yeah.
after replaying it. It's like, oh my gosh.
He's like, who's got time to pick up 100 pieces of fruit? Like,
Yeah.
man, I was just cracking up that whole time. I got destroyed by Elena's score. Like, you can't beat that. I'm pretty sure.
You
You
can.
can't the first time around. You can
Oh,
only
Yeah.
you
do it
can
in
the
the
second time?
epilogue.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so let's jump into that real quick, and then if there's any other like specific parts that you want to go into. Actually, wait, first
of course.
before I do that, uh, so Sam lied about whole like save me, we have to find the treasure, or else I'm gonna
Oh
die.
man, I'm talking
So
about that scene.
yeah, so why the one thing I was confused about, why does like afterwards, why is that never addressed?
They address it a little bit, but then
Like
like yeah, Drake's just
like is
sort
it
of like
just the whole thing like Drake like forgave him because he sort of took a bullet for him?
I think he forgave him because he it's sort of
He
like
just wanted to get off the island. He
he
wasn't
wanted
really concerned about talking to him about it. He just wanted to get both of them and Sully and Elena off the island at that point.
I think he looks. I mean, if you look at those cutscenes and you see like the emotions in their face, like you can kind of gather. Like he looks at Sam and he notices he's almost got like this illness where like he lets the treasure consume him,
Hmm.
and I think he sees that in himself. Like he used to be that way,
Yeah,
and so he understands that why he is the way he is because he never went on all these other excavations like he did. He was in prison for 15 years,
Yeah.
and then at the end there, when they're on the ship and he's might die, he says, like, hey, all I really wanted to do was find this treasure with you. And I
yeah, and
think that
the
Hmm.
hits him. And he's like, that was literally me, like, the
Yeah.
last
yeah, and the
15 years.
and the need for Sam to find the treasure, Henry Avery's treasure specifically, is very personal
Mm-hmm.
between the both of them actually.
Right. Because, I mean, it's been there since their childhood. It's something they've wanted
Yeah,
to
it's like
do. So.
Yeah,
sort of like they have to like sort of, just like continue their mother's work.
yeah,
It's like she believed it. She thought this was like this whole thing. So then ever since they found that notebook, they just wanted to find it.
Right.
Yeah, and then we can go into the epilogue. Uh, Man, I gotta believe there's gonna be another Uncharted game just with his daughter. Man, there's gotta
Yeah.
be.
ill-fitting, but
I
I think they set it up that way, like, so that,
Yeah, because they kept saying like it's Nathan Drake's last adventure.
right.
yeah,
I don't know if it necessarily like guarantees they'll do one, but it's kind of cool they set it up that way because it's like it's something they can always come back to and just sort of like pull this game out
Yeah,
whenever they want
I
to.
don't think that we'll see one the rest of this generation. I don't think.
Right. I don't think
because
it's
like
something Naughty Dog would do either. I think it's something another studio would probably work on just because Naughty Dog
yeah, that's
seems
true.
like they're always like that studio that they make like two or three games of something in a series and then they move on. Like they tend to like to move on from what they're doing. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Ever since Universal screwed them over.
But yeah, so that was sort of goes into like sort of what would Naughty Dog do next. I think definitely next they're doing Last of Us 2.
Yeah, yeah.
And then after that, I feel like they're making new IP.
oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Um,
I'm still holding out for a Jack and Daxter reboot, but that's me.
Yeah,
man, I would. Oh my God, no, like, sure, you Jack and Daxter fans out there, give it to another. It's Naughty Dog, you
yeah.
know, like,
Kyle and I talked about this a little bit in the chat, and I totally agree. Like I think they need to move on. You know, like it's one of those things where they dropped it a while ago, and I just can't see them going back to like a cartoony game. And it's not that they can't put like a mature story into a cartoony game. It's just like it's just like they've done so much since then. I just can't see them like it would feel like they're going backwards, and I just can't see them doing that.
Yeah, sort of, I guess. I mean, I know where you're coming from with that.
Yeah.
It's just, I still want a Jack and Daxter game.
let it
Well,
go.
didn't something like leak with Jack and Daxter? Wasn't there like
Yeah, I think it was like about 2 months ago, and it was like art done by some guy, and it was found on his LinkedIn account. And it was basically these concept mock-ups, and in two of the photos, it shows basically what looks like Jack and Daxter,
Mm.
and it's like a very not necessarily post-apocalyptic, but very like steampunk,
okay?
uh, and like a sort of like a like more like a dark and brooding type concept.
Did he
Like,
work for Naughty Dog, this guy?
I'm not sure. He might have.
Okay.
I think he may have with the previous Jack and Daxter games. I can't remember.
Because there were some, I mean, like with The Last of Us 2, there were a lot of like spoilers with that, where there was like, wasn't there someone that like said on LinkedIn, like, oh yeah, I worked on like sound design or something for like The Last of Us 2. And then there was also like that art that came up, and then they were like, "Oh no, this was just like fan art that we decided to do," and just like, and then of course the Nolan North incident where he was like, "Oh yeah, I don't know what other games they're working on besides Last of Us 2." It's like, like how long can they cover that up for? Like obviously they're working on Last of Us 2. There's just like no way they're not.
Yeah, you would
Yeah,
have to be. That's just how Naughty Dog operates.
Yeah.
yeah. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about? One thing that sort of another sort of Last of Us 2 Uncharted, like which one is better? I said that I think I like The Last of Us more just because it's much more like emotional story. Uh,
Hmm.
but as so once I beat it, there's a YouTuber I watched like someone's walkthrough, so I started watching them. I was like, I forget how many moments I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, there's so many moments in there that I just like loved that I forget about just in like the sort of the overall aspect of it.
Right.
But then like once I rewatched them, I was like, wow, there were so many cool parts of this game that just like aren't main things, but that they add so much to the whole experience.
Yeah, I guess to say to that, there were some people online I saw like complaining that this story doesn't get as deep as The Last of Us,
It's not The
and
Last of Us though.
yeah, and that's the problem, and I think that's kind of why again like Naughty Dog's moving on, because they're getting into like more serious stories, and they're really good at storytelling, and they kind of want to move like if you look at like where they came from like Crash, which was like very cartoony, then they go to Jack and Daxter, which is
But the
kind of
graphics are pretty
cartoony, but
good in
it's
Crash.
Then Jack 2 and 3 were very
yeah, where it's getting
serious.
like a little bit more serious, and then to Uncharted, where it was like, okay, now you got actual
Back to
human
Goofy.
characters.
Yeah.
Right, but they're still kind of acting goofy, and then you get to The Last of Us, which is like real
Wow.
human characters acting like real human characters, and I think
Yeah,
that's why they're moving on from that now, and they're dropping that because it's like they wanted to get to that point, and now they can finally pull that off.
Yeah.
yeah, with the like new technology and everything.
Right.
Yeah, so another thing, the final boss fight, I thought that was really well done.
Oh yeah, yeah. I have a lot
Sort
to
of,
say about that.
yeah, sort of like how, like they get in the boat or on the ship and they're like, hey, you see these two guys? And he's like, oh, those are the two, it's two and Avery. He's like, hey, they killed each other fighting over this treasure. And then sort of how, like, sort of parallels how Drake and Rafe are fighting over, or well, I mean, Rafe, they're not really fighting over the treasure. Like Rafe just kind of wants to kill Drake.
Yeah, and the thing about that is during the fight, the things Rafe says to Drake, they started the same exact way, working, trying to find Henry Avery's treasure. And then when that fell out, Sam supposedly died, and they were trying to find Henry Avery's treasure for 2 years. Then Drake went his own separate path. He left Rafe behind, and in that he found El Dorado, Shangri-La, and Iran with the Pillars. He found all of that, and Rafe was very jealous. So during the fight, he made that very clear to Drake that he did not like him because he has found all of the thing.
Yeah, and then
And
it wasn't he saying that Rafe's like, "Hey, everything's been given to me. I want to accomplish something by myself." Something along
yeah,
those lines.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then Henry Avery's treasure was that. And so when he basically saw that they were all going to die anyway, he figured he might as well kill Drake
Yeah,
before they all die. And so that was like a very emotional fight because you can tell Nathan Drake really doesn't want to kill this man.
yeah. No, he doesn't want to kill. Like he doesn't like hit him with his sword or anything. He just punches him once he stuns him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then of course, to save himself, he drops a net of Henry Avery's treasure right on top of Rafe.
Yeah, and then he just kills him.
Yeah. No, yeah, it was a very fitting end, I think. I mean, it wouldn't be an Uncharted end if you weren't having a pirate sword fight on a burning pirate ship.
No, it wouldn't be an Uncharted game if the treasure didn't get destroyed as you barely
Yeah.
escape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that at least in this game. Like, I was like, oh, they're sitting on treasure. Like, just grab a
I
few
thought they were
coins.
actually gonna get it this time.
Yeah.
I really did.
I was glad that Sam at least grabbed some of the coins, and then like
He
you
did.
know something came of that because it's like if they do that again, I'm gonna be like, all right, come on, guys.
They got
The weird thing is there were billions worth of treasure on that ship.
Yeah, and they know where it is now, so they could go back at any time and like.
Yeah, it would be at the bottom of the ocean unless all the gold just melted, which is completely plausible.
Yeah, but I think they moved on.
Yeah.
Well, Drake does now own a like a marine thing, and then in the epilogue, him and Elena have their own archaeologist company.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I love
And
that ending scene going through that house and just like looking at all the photos and like the
oh yeah.
commentary behind them. It was just
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
It was great. So is the reason that they were hiding like that stuff from their daughter? What's her name again?
Oh,
Cassie.
Cassie. Yeah. So like, what's the reason they were hiding at? Just sort of like they didn't want to address like I mean, I'm sure they probably could have shared like what they did before, but or maybe it's because they didn't want her to sort of take up that life as well.
I figure it as by the time she was like born and stuff, they pretty much settled as just being
Yeah,
archaeologists,
they were out of the
not
game.
thieves or treasure hunters.
Yeah.
And so basically, they wanted her to see that they have this passion to find treasure, but not the passion to necessarily kill to
Or
get
like
it.
do illegal things and stuff like that.
Yeah, basically because they have her doing stuff with them as well, with the archaeologists diggings and everything and such. So I guess Nathan specifically probably didn't want her to know like what his past was like.
Like sort of like they killed everyone and stuff.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
yeah, I like how they kind of addressed that because there was like a man. What was this part where there was like a line where oh I think it was right before Sam like revealed that he was lying, where Sam says to Rafe like you don't deserve this treasure, and then Rafe says none of us do. We're all just thieves and killers, something like that. Uh,
yeah.
yeah, I thought like how they sort of like they didn't like beat you over the head with like they didn't directly address like how Drake just killed like hundreds and hundreds of people on his
Yeah.
last adventures,
thousands.
but they kind of
He's
addressed
he's
that like none of these.
he's like completely destroyed free paramilitaries.
Yeah.
That's true,
Dude, we need like a Drake in Iraq, man.
man. We do. That's
Just,
not a
like
bad
take out all of the
idea.
terrorists.
But yeah, I like how sort of they definitely addressed it at least a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, one
which
thing I was going
is
to bring up too that you just remind me of is that dog at the very end.
Oh,
Do
dog.
you guys remember what they named him? Was it Sully?
No, it was not.
Okay, because
They.
there's a
Oh man, yeah, that's right. They
yeah,
yeah,
said
because
Solly.
was it Sully?
they
I
said,
think
or was it
I think
when Elena was talking to Drake, and then they were like, okay, we'll name it Sully or something like that.
Well, so the reason I brought that up is because earlier, like, there's that area in the market where you talk to Sully, and it's a like a hit triangle like optional dialogue path,
Hmm.
and he says Drake says like, oh, if we make it out of this all right, I really want to settle down and get a dog, and I think Sully says like, what would you name it or something like that, and he's like, oh, I'll name it Sully or
Oh,
some
oh
kind
yeah,
of
he was like, I'll
tongue
name it
twist.
Sullivan or something like that.
Yeah. So I couldn't remember because I didn't get to the end a second time. I didn't find that till the second playthrough, and I couldn't remember what the dog's name was, but I
No, the
could.
dog's name is Vicky, I think.
yeah,
Oh,
Vicky,
okay.
because it's a girl.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it. So it's like Victor Sullivan, but it's Vicky.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I
I,
didn't
I
I
actually
didn't
picked
put
up
that
on
together.
that.
Yeah, just hit me now. Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah,
What an eye-opening thing.
what a naughty dog thing.
Is there any other things you want to talk about? I sort of
of
went over
course.
everything
I
I've got.
I have like one thing that
Okay.
I definitely want to talk about. So of course, there's two chapters that involve Nate and Sam's childhood, basically a flashback. And then in the later in the game, you have another one where they go to this place to find their mother's stuff. Um, and of course, this leads them to a big old mansion. As you go into this mansion, and there's like letters and different objects you can look at throughout the entire mansion. Of course, it's pretty direct that this is like a treasure hunter's place, an archaeologist's house, because there's just different treasures scattered about the entire mansion.
Yeah.
And it's all like boarded up. You go into this kid's room. It has different treasures and boxes and stuff in it, and you read a letter there that's basically it basically states that this woman and her husband and her son are basically they're archaeologists and are very involved with going to different countries and speaking to different people. And just throughout the entire mansion, as you read these letters, you kind of find out about this woman, Evelyn. And at basically at the conclusion of all of these letters, finding out who this woman is, she's an archaeologist, and I think it was the very last letter that blatantly said that her husband and her son both left her because of her want to find treasure. It
Hmm.
basically destroyed her family, and that's kind of like basically what I kind of felt with Nathan and Elena, and that
Almost. It almost
yeah,
happened.
and so it's kind of like yeah, this is like very like subtle. Like if you aren't even paying attention to any letters, you're not going to really pick up on this. But it's
Hmm.
like and kind of like it's like that with all of like the detail and the letters throughout the entire game, where it just kind of adds more depth to like what's going on in the history of everything, and just sort of draws parallels like what's going on now, of course, which is just like really captivating. And then then the final scene of that chapter when Nate and Sam find their mother's journal, which detail um, Henry Avery's treasure. And they read it, and then behind them, a light turns on, and this woman, Evelyn, who is very old and by herself, of course, basically sneaks up on them with a gun. And essentially, and it's sort of like they're talking to each other. She says that she's called the police and that she basically sits down while keeping a gun on them. And it's just like Sam kind of lets it slip that they're looking for their mom's stuff.
Yeah, right. He was trying to get Nate out of trouble and just take all the blame. He's like, "Hey, we're just looking for our mom's stuff."
Yeah. And you find out that their mother was an archaeologist who worked with Evelyn. And then you find out their real name, Sam and
Oh
Drake.
man, I completely forgot to address that.
Yeah, they're not their real name, not Drake, of course. So
It's Morgan.
everything that Marwo said in the third game was completely true.
Yeah.
Right.
Um, and it was just like it was a really cool scene because right before the police get there, and she gets up to kind of tell the kind of distract police as they slip through the back and leave with their mother's journal. She has a heart attack.
She shouldn't have been smoking.
Yeah.
Well, the woman had to be like 90, I
She
guess
was
about
old.
80s, because there's a postcard from Amelia Earhart
Oh yeah, that was
addressed to
great. I
her.
saw. I was like, wait, Amelia Earhart. What the heck?
And so she has a heart attack, and of course they are like, "Oh my god!" And it's just like, if like as like it's kind of like a mind blowing moment even to me, knowing like what their lives are like now. It's just like this is what caused them to have to live like this, and it's just like such like a small thing that had like drastic changes on who they are as people and what how they live their lives, which is like, oh man, this is kind of like threw me off a bit.
Like it's like the whole reason they went on these adventures.
Yeah, and it's just like because it's not how they wanted it to happen. It's just how it happened, and like totally unexpected, but it completely it felt like completely plausible like beginning
Hmm.
to their endeavors
Yeah.
and finding treasure, which is I don't know. It's just that whole entire chapter is just I spent like I guess about an hour and a half just searching through
Yeah,
the
because you got to
mansion
read through all
itself.
this stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like
it's
even just a little stuff in there, like the picture that they take, and then that plays into the end with like
Yeah, I
whatever
kept the
helmet
hat
you
on
had
for the
on.
picture.
Yeah, yeah, little subtle things like that, even just like really made that moment special.
yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, and there was like a so at the beginning when oh I forgot the whole part where Drake's like fake shooting these like enemies while he's in his attic. I
Yeah,
thought that was hilarious. Uh,
yeah,
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
so
All
he
stuff in his
reaches
attic.
yeah, so in that box there is so there's the cross that they found in the tower. And there's Sam's jacket that he gave Nate when they went out. And then there's also that book, and then he like pulls out this picture, and he's like, no, and then he like puts it down, and that was a picture that
because
they took when they were,
it's of them and Sam,
yeah, and that was the
Right.
and of
picture that they
course,
took when they were in that house.
yeah, and at that point, Nathan still thought Sam was dead, so he didn't
Yeah.
want to bring back that memory.
Hmm.
Yeah, we gotta touch on like that attic scene too is such a cool start. How
Yeah, it is.
it had like all those little memories from all the past games, all the little like trinkets, random treasures,
Hmm.
but just like even like they put in the music not even from those games but from those moments like when you pick up like the U-boat coin and he's flipping around he's like a coin from a German U-boat in the middle of the jungle, then it plays like the song from that moment when you
Yeah,
found it on the
Yeah,
U-boat, like so cool, that little like do and like
yeah,
each item had like the sound from the moment you climbed it or like picked it up, and it was just like,
yeah,
this
right.
is
See,
so
it's
and
cool.
like
like all three of the journals from one, two, and three, it actually played the all three of the game's themes,
Yeah,
which is really cool.
I loved it.
yeah, it's sort of like this sort of like sort of how we're jumping around all these places like oh yeah like this is it sort of like supports my claim of like how much cool stuff is in there like you just forget like that there's so many good parts of this game uh
Yeah.
just because like originally you just think about the big stuff and then there's smaller stuff that adds to the overall experience which is
And
incredible.
just like walking through the house and like looking like
It's like oh wow we've got a normal life now.
yeah, and seeing how they're living and everything. Then there's a wedding album in their bedroom that has, of course, wedding pictures. And the cool thing about it was that it was just, of course, Nathan and Elena getting married, and then in the background there was Sully. There were two people sitting in like the seats. I'm pretty sure I know who those two people are. It's Chloe and Cutter.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That makes
Um,
sense.
and like I know in the attic, there's actually a letter from Chloe to Nate,
Oh, okay.
basically saying that I have another adventure coming up. Do you want to come with? And then Nate basically, as he's reading it, he's comments like, like I basically says, I'm sorry, Chloe, I'm just not up for that anymore.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I like
And
that they referenced all those characters that didn't make it into, like even like Cutter
yeah,
gets mentioned on the phone later.
yeah,
And then even like Golden Abyss. Like I played through that, I barely remember, but I guess in that attic there's some Golden Abyss stuff that I don't think you can pick up and move around, but someone was saying like a jacket from Golden Abyss is
Oh,
up
there is
there or
Golden Abyss
something.
stuff. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Uh,
um, but yeah, I know they're making single player DLC. So there might be like I don't know, like a
I
chapter
I
involving
think
Chloe or
I think
something.
the DLC will be, at the end how Sully and Sam go on their adventure. I think that's what it's gonna be.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah,
So wait, did they actually announce they're doing single player DLC or no?
Yeah,
yeah, they
yeah.
have.
Oh wow, I didn't
You
even
can
know that.
go ahead and buy the season pass.
Wow, I thought that was just for like multiplayer stuff.
Nope.
No.
Oh man, I'm excited now. I
Yeah,
didn't even know that.
man. All
Yeah,
right. Well, we could talk about this game for hours and hours.
Yeah.
But
of course I
unfortunately,
could.
our time here is running out. So thank you for listening to this special episode, Uncharted 4 themed.
If you haven't
Uh,
bought it, buy it. Even
yeah,
if
if
you
you haven't
don't
bought
own a
it, buy it.
PS4.
Brett, we're talking to you.
Yeah.
Just
Kevin, we're talking to you.
even if you don't have a PS4, buy it and just treat it like gold.
Yeah, just like frame it,
Yeah,
hang it up in your
just
Put it
house.
on
frame
the
it on the
wall.
wall, and then when you save enough money, buy a PS4, crack the glass frame, rip it out, put
Yeah.
it in a PS4, and just play
There you go.
So
it.
yeah, Kevin messed up in a big spot because he bought Doom instead of Uncharted. It was a big
He's
mistake.
doomed.
Like a lot of people like
No.
Doom. Jason, we would have
I
talked
I
about it if
really
you.
like Doom, so I can't say that he made a bad choice because they're both. I mean, it just. I don't know.
Nah,
He still has to pick up Uncharted. I'd be more angry if he just didn't pick it up.
it's like nah.
So
But
yeah,
thanks again for joining us for this special episode 63 of the Game Up Podcast. The official podcast of thegamebolt.com. Recent stuff that has gone up on the site. Be sure to check out Jason's Uncharted 4 review
yeah.
and also a video review, which is great. The Park review by Brian. Yeah, so go check that stuff out. And thanks for joining us. And oh man, I almost closed it without asking for your Twitters. Uh, Kyle, where can we find you on Twitter?
You can find me at Clockdown R me.
All right, and Jason,
You can find me at J_Smash1.
you can find me at GrantRam3. You can follow the Gamebolt at the_Gamebolt. That's all we got for you this week, and we will see you guys later.
See ya.
Sayonara.